Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good Tuesday evening. Live from the stand. How are you guys? E squared, 616 Love, Purple Hearts, Gwen Jenkins, Mama Steph. How's everybody doing tonight? So, see, Ernie's back in trouble again, I guess. He's headed back to court in the morning. Um, it was being made to believe that this was some kind of new charge. It's actually not a new charge. It's several years old. He's just now having an answer for it. I challenged him several live streams back, and before the turn of 2022, I told him, "Hey, Ernie, you've got a criminal summons waiting for you out of Floyd County, Kentucky," and he kept saying, "No, I don't." I said, "Yes, you do," and well, yes, he does, and he's going to answer to it tomorrow. He's got an arraignment in the morning, so see how that turns out. I actually have people over there who's going to let me know what's going on and how that goes early in the morning. 9:30 a.m. is when it's supposed to go down. Of course, that don't mean it's going to happen at 9:30. You know how court dockets are. I think everybody's scheduled pretty much at the same time in the a.m., right? And then they go in alphabetical order, I think. Maybe it's docket order. I don't know. So, but either way, more charges for Ernie. And that has nothing to do with his Madison County trouble. So, um, you know, we'll see how it affects his bond. Um, I've heard a couple different things on that. What I was told was he was given bond after that charge. Like that charge is, like I said, several years old. It was a criminal summons. He was given bond. Um, don't forget to get them live on chat. Oh yeah, yeah. If they'll go live, these same people have been in fear of Ernie for a while, so coming public has been an issue. Um, but anyway, I don't know if that will affect his bond or not. And I'm not by any means an expert on law in Kentucky or bond or anything like that, but I would think that it would not affect his bond and that he will be able to, you know, unless he's, uh, sentenced to something tomorrow, then I would think that he will be able to, remain on his current bond. Um, we'll see. We'll know tomorrow by afternoon sometime. Um, so we're going to get started on the trial here in just a couple minutes. Trying to remember. Oh, there is another thing I wanted to point out. Let me go ahead and share the screen so you guys can see this. It's on our community page if you want to go look at it. When I say our, I mean his charge is harassing communications, threatening via the internet. So I think he threatened somebody over Facebook. You know, see how serious they take it. In light of all his other charges, they may take it pretty serious. Um, so, all right, let's see. You guys probably can't see that real well. Make it as big as I can, and I'm going to pull it up so I can see it as good as I can. The on the left there is a JPay from Shelby Shell to Not Today, who is MIA. But anyway, this was one of his first messages to her. On the left, it says, Jimbo set me up for Ernie to go along with the joke about killing dude. 9 days later, first the KSP wanted Ernie to call me because they didn't believe him, and I didn't know what he's talking about. Now listen to this. I didn't know what he's talking about because me and Jimbo ain't talked about it yet. Talking about the joke, right? I didn't know. He says he didn't know to talk to Ernie because he didn't know the joke yet. Well, that was on the night that Ernie called from the state police post was the 24th. It's right here on the right. Actually, 25th, early in the morning at 3:15 a.m. Ernie calls him, and that's when he said he didn't know the joke. So you look at that call log and tell me, when did he possibly find the joke out? He told Not Today that he talked to Ernie and me all morning on the phone, and it was right there in the call log. And she even posted the call log and said, look, right there it is. But look, show it to me. Look at it. Tell me what you see. It's not there. It's a lie. Mr. Shelby been lying the whole time. And Miss Not Today been telling him all about it. Hey, yeah, listen up. Shelby's not lying. Shelby's not lying. Look, he said this, he said that. He never lies. He owns up to everything. Well, he's not. So there. So you guys check that out, and that debunks his whole there was a joke theory. This whole line of thinking that he, didn't know the joke because him and Ernie hadn't, discussed. Me and him hadn't discussed it yet, so he couldn't know the joke when Ernie called at 3:15. Well, when did he learn the joke? Because when he talked to me at 10:30, he confessed. I've not heard anybody say that was an actual overdose now, Andrew says. So I'm assuming she was probably pretty sick, not actually hospital sick. That's me assuming, because I don't know for sure. But so that's that. But you guys ready to get right on into the trial, finish up this defense expert? This is the intellectual disability expert that the jury's not hearing. And actually, I think there's a little bench conference, and then he finishes up. So we'll go ahead and get that started. Let me get on the share screen. Sorry to pop on there so quick, scare you guys. Oh, all right. Share screen. We'll share the whole screen. Yeah, I still talk while I do everything. I'm sorry. Then we'll go to
all right, you got a motion.
Your Honor, just for the record, based on your rulings over and the issue regarding notice, I looked at the criminal rules. One of the options in the criminal rules, if notice is an issue, is a continuance of the trial, so the Commonwealth would have time to look over the experts and have double hearings and do that. So in order to preserve the issue of Dr. Fabian's testimony, I would ask the court to consider a continuing the trial for a short period of time in order for them to look over the CV and look over the reports, and then we can continue on after that. So I would make a motion to continue.
We would object to any continuance based on that. First of all, our objection to the original request to speak about what he was requesting had multiple problems, only one of which was notice. The second was that we don't believe that it's proper for the guilt phase based upon, one, it wasn't a confession, there was no police involvement, and this is the most, to me, compelling argument, is that when later faced with actual police conduct, he denied involvement. Furthermore, I think it would be prejudicial to the jury. I think that to this point is not merited and would be a disservice and should be overruled.
Not to mention that it would be prejudicial to the defense. I'm not speaking for you, but as you said, it's one of the options. And I was just reading some case law on how to make preserve issues, and I just don't want to miss this issue as unpreserved. because I didn't ask for it. So
It's preserved and it's overruled.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
All right, so let's get a move on here. How long is your cross?
Two or three questions.
All right, okay. All right, Doctor, you're still under oath. They're gonna have some cross examination and then move on. Okay, sweet.
Yes, Your Honor. Sir, could you tell me, have you ever heard of DSM-5?
I have
What is that?
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, published by the American Psychiatric Association in 2013.
Okay, is that considered the national standard today?
Yeah.
Okay. And was one of the significant changes from preceding versions or what have you, change from mental retardation to intellectual disability?
Yes.
Okay. So anytime today that you may have stated mental retardation under the DSM-5, which is current, that would be intellectual disability. Is that
I would
correct?
agree, yes.
Okay. Under DSM-5, intellectual disability, are there various levels of intellectual disability? Is it just all encompassing? Either you have that or you don't, or is there various severities?
Various severities: mild, moderate, severe, and profound.
Okay, so four?
Yeah.
Four levels, okay.
He would be the mild.
He would be mild, he being Shelby Shell.
Yes.
So every time today when you stated intellectual disability, would it be correct to insert the word mild in front of that?
Yes.
Okay. Last question or last series of questions. Were you or will you be paid by the defense to testify here today?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of what your final bill for that will be?
Objection.
Mr. Rounds.
Anything about payment is really just not.
You can ask him if he's compensated. I think she asked him before.
She asked him before, but then we had a whole slew of questioning under a separate.
You can ask him if it's
Cessation.
compensated, and leave it at that instead of specific.
Well, I think I have. You stated that you were paid by the defense to be here today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's it, Your Honor.
Okay. Is that it?
What do you want? One follow-up question. There are varying degrees of intellectual disability. Does the mild mental disability or mild intellectual disability label in any way change the content or the context of your testimony today?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, 85% of those with intellectual disability are mild, which really necessitates that they have an IQ of 70 or below, and they are quite impaired.
So all the impairments that you discussed in speaking earlier apply to Shelby Shell, and in fact apply to about 85% of people with intellectual disability in that mild category.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Dr. Fagan, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
It's just, I don't know if he'll be coming back or not.
We'll ask to release the witness subject to recall by Skype.
Subject to recall, doctor, just in case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I don't want, I'm trying to work out some planning here because I don't want to put anyone under any unnecessary stress or strain in this thing. Defendant has a right to a fair trial. We're a guest in this courtroom, and I'm informed that they really do need it Friday and Monday. And I'm sitting here thinking that it's about the possibility if we start going over a recess until next week sometime. I know that's it's not out of the ordinary. It can be done, and give the jury a break. And I don't think that I'm considering that your input would be fine. I don't think that they'll be out over the weekend anyway. I don't think that kind of recess would necessarily would harm the jurors' memory of what they've heard so far.
Certainly, there's some things that we had trouble hearing that there's a really good possibility the jury in deliberations may ask to re-listen to, like Dr. Rolfe or the phone call. So there's
Well, if they
bound
want to
be-
listen to anything, they'll have to come
they
back
can
into
listen to
court.
anything, Right.
They'll come back into court and
Do
listen
you
to
want
it.
us to try to aim for closing argument on Thursday, or do
Well,
you
no,
want to close
listen,
and wait?
let's what I'm I don't want to go through closing arguments in recess, certainly, but I'm thinking if we get to the point where I'm not sure what we do.
Your Honor, if I may, we have several times had issues with courts wherein once the jury is deliberating, they're out of this room.
True.
And they're in the jury room, and then only brief entry back into the courtroom is a necessary thing, which oftentimes courts can accommodate fairly easily for us to come back in and do what must be done. I assume we're going to continue to call witnesses today, then we have all day tomorrow before we make any decision on any of this. Hopefully we get a lot done tomorrow.
Are you suggesting that it might go to the jury tomorrow evening?
I think so.
I hope it does. All due respect,
Well, let's see where we are. And I'm going to talk to Judge Costanzo. He's been so generous in allowing us to be here. But we are, but I want everyone to get their say at the same time. And so, anyway, those are I'm trying to think this through, and I want everyone to be mindful of where we might have to go with some of this. All right. Okay. Or how we might have to proceed going forward.
Shelby said, I hope it does, with all due respect.
how late can we go tonight, Judge? Gunner, how late can we go tonight?
As late as you want, as late as necessary. As long as we got a witness out there, we'll keep going.
There's some witnesses, some local witnesses that they don't have to subpoena. That we're going to come from the call. So the Commonwealth, go as long as the court thinks the jury can stand it.
Yeah, we've got two witnesses that were recognized on Monday for today. So we've got John Paul Madden and Pam Grayson. And then we've got a couple more Maddens that are on deck.
Let's keep going.
And then we have Ava Crow, who's the special education expert. And I don't know if the Commonwealth's going to have the same objections to her. So
is that a mitigation?
I was going to use her in the guilt facts portion of the trial.
Again, I don't see where
Again,
that.
talking about intellectual disability and the interaction with false confession. But if we want to put all of her special education report in the mitigation phase, I just have to say that I planned to use it in this part of the trial, and she is going to Colorado on Saturday, so she will not be available for a couple weeks or a week.
Again, we have no objection to the mitigation in the penalty phase, but we renew for that our objection for the guilt phase.
When's she coming back from Colorado?
I think the 23rd was the original, that may have moved, because she was actually going to leave today. They switched it back.
Is she ready for testimony today?
She's ready. She could also be here tomorrow if you want to get through
Tomorrow?
4 witnesses tonight and have her at some point.
Is it testimony or is it a report you could stipulate and read into evidence or anything like that?
There is a report.
If you think to be
And
taught, look
we
at
might
that
pull-
and see if that's a possibility. I don't want to cramp your evidence, but if that's a possibility, that may be something to be done. But anyway, let's get along. Let's go on with your other witnesses now that you have here now, and move along with them. We do have to bring the jury in, yeah.
Yeah, we do have to bring them.
Okay.
She had to remind him to bring the jury in like 3 times.
All right, folks, anything to report? Okay, all right. Have a seat, everybody. And call your next witness.
The defense calls John Paul Madden.
John Paul Madden.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, here comes the storyteller.
Downstairs.
Mr. Madden here.
He is, I believe he was.
Downstairs, and go
He
check.
was downstairs and they were trying to have that.
He had to poop.
He's been here. This morning, so. Sorry, just.
But it's true, Blue Moon, Kentucky. I think this is a travesty. This is a pathetic display of our justice system at work. I mean, it could be textbook to show how not to have a trial. Both sides. It's ridiculous.
I'm also, he's on his way, but we had pain here, so we're going to call him.
Would the court indulge a substitution while Mr. Madden apparently is on his way?
You got another witness?
We'll call Pamela Ray Stidham.
Calling who?
Use him first? Yeah, we'll use him first. Sorry, Chris.
We've got other people.
Now, Pamela Ray Stidham, I've talked to several times since we've been covering the trial. She has confirmed also that there is a relationship between Shelby Shell and Lucinda Lay. No, we're going to have that meatloaf this week.
All right, sir, are you John Paul Madden? Would you raise your right hand, please? Mr. Madden, do you swear or affirm that any testimony given in this trial will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, have a seat over here. Speak loudly and clearly into that microphone so everybody can hear you.
A little bit hard to hear you.
Well,
Can you hear us?
we got earphones over here. Get him a set of earphones.
He's got the Ernie sniff too, don't
Are
he?
you gonna do the question, Ms. Karen?
The shell sniff.
All right, I want to see
I
if he
got the
can hear you
sniffles right
once he
now
gets his
myself.
earphones on.
That makes it louder on the front, on top there. You can adjust it back and forth, get it louder where you need to. Can you roll it back and forth? It's kind of
Would you
making a
speak
noise.
up, Ms. Karen, see if you can hear?
Like, test, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
All right.
can you all hear me? That's a bigger issue. Could you state your name for the court and maybe spell your last name for the court?
My name is John Paul Madden, last name Madden.
And Mr. Madden, what's your relationship to Ernie and Shelby Shell?
I'm his uncle,
Uncle to both of them?
correct?
And how long have you known Ernie Shell?
Since he was born,
And is Ernie somebody you know to be dishonest?
correct, yes, he is.
Have you known Ernie to be involved romantically with men?
Correct,
Have you seen video of Ernie with a man?
I've not seen video, I've seen messages online.
Check.
We can strike that question because apparently I
Yeah,
asked the wrong
just
one.
to ignore the question and answer, please.
Have you ever seen Jimbo and Ernie kissing?
Correct, yes.
And where did you see that?
His mother lives above me, and you've got to come by my house to get in her driveway. And then my driveway is probably about 25 foot from my window and my door, and that's where I seen it.
So you saw Jimbo and Ernie kissing in your driveway.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And how did you recognize Jimbo and Ernie?
Well, he got out of the car to get stuff out of the trunk. And he got back in the car, and Ernie got back in the car with him. I seen him pissed in. Ernie got out and went in the house, and he left.
And how are you familiar with Jimbo?
Makes perfect sense.
So how did you recognize him?
I just know him by Ernie, you know.
You don't know me,
him.
jackass.
Has Ernie ever told you he was going to make a movie about this case?
Yes, he has.
Has he ever stolen from you or another family member?
Yes, my mother and I.
Has he ever tried to harm you or your mother?
He's not, well, we fit, but he, you know, he has my mother, but he hasn't me. I protect up on myself.
You feel you're able to protect yourself from Ernie?
Yes, I can.
But he has tried to harm your mother before,
Yes.
and you were a witness, you saw that with your
Yes.
own eyes.
He's talking about Ernie's grandmother, by the way.
Have you known Ernie to set up Shelby in the past?
Yes, multiple times.
Can you describe just any
He's
examples?
just, all their life, he's been jealous of him. And he's got him in trouble different times. He's had me arrested multiple times. He's just, Ernie's a legend in his own mind.
Let's see. I think it's probably a fair question. Do you love Shelby and Ernie?
Yes, I love Shelby.
What?
Maybe not so much Ernie.
No, it's not seeing my mother the way he has, no.
Those are all the questions I have for you, but the Commonwealth may have.
All right, Cross.
All right, first they wait appropriate about
Yes, ma'am.
Was he in Long John's in Middlesboro when they caught the police? I thought he was in Prestonsburg. Of course, I don't know. I know he's got court in Prestonsburg or Floyd County, which Prestonsburg, where I assume that would be.
We are going to ask this gentleman if he's a convicted felon. We just wanted to give you a chance to judge. We asked that.
Okay.
The answer's
If he answers yes, as I understand the rules, if he answers yes, you're stuck with his answer.
If the answer's no, we can impeach you. We cannot get into what felony unless he says no, then we can put that whole thing.
So he does answer no, but they don't actually ask him what for. So I don't get that.
Mr. Madden, where do you live?
Black Mountain,
Where is that?
it's about 4 miles above Everett, it's called 31 County.
And who do you live with?
Well, it was Selena Blevins,
Do you know Edith Madden?
she's my mother.
Your mother, Edith Madden?
Yes.
Have you ever lived with her?
Yeah, I've stayed with her and helped her when my brother wasn't living with her. I took care of her.
Did you live with her back in 1984, 1985?
I say so. I don't recall that moment though.
And you lived in that home?
Well, yes, at that time I'd have been like 10-year-old. I'd say it was.
And did your mother have custody of Shelby Shell?
Yes.
Did she have custody of Shelby Shell a lot? Legal custody?
Yes, she raised all of them, all my sister's kids.
So you're saying your mother raised Shelby Shell and her?
Well, she adopted them. I don't know exactly how long she had custody of them, but she done what she could with them. And I don't know how many years that was.
Now, you said a while ago that you don't love Ernie.
Well, it ain't that I don't love him. I just feel kind of hard at him on the way he's done my mother.
Well, I think you said also that he had you arrested.
Yeah, he has.
Could you tell us about that?
Well,
I object. We had this.
You approach.
Yeah, there's really nothing to see other than, if Ernie's on his way to jail, I'm sure the ones who called are celebrating and hollering ding dong, the wicked witch is dead again. They've done it, plenty of times in the past.
To give me a moment, Your Honor, we'll clarify.
What's the basis of your objection?
Well, they discussed that stuff about the convicted felon. I thought we weren't going into details. We were just.
We was asking if you had him arrested.
He said it. That's
And
what
I
he
thought I'd
testified
said-
to.
He already said so earlier, I thought.
He testified. to
No,
that.
Blue Moon,
Yeah,
he
just
hasn't pled guilty at this point.
Testified
No.
that.
He's not on trial. But
No,
I
I
just
know.
like I
I
said,
know.
limited.
Yeah,
Said
but
about
see,
that for years.
What?
What arrest are you gonna?
Well, we
talk
don't
about?
know.
We
We don't know yet.
He said he
We
was-
you didn't give us notice of him. We don't know about him. We don't know his record. Well, if we
All
let him
right.
finish,
All right,
we don't
cool.
know what his background is, but he said that he does not like Ernie, that he loves Shelby, and that Ernie's had him arrested.
Ernie had him arrested.
What
Go
for?
to bias. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, it goes to bias. I mean, Uncle John Paul Madden wasn't a very good witness to sit up there and act like, I can't stand Ernie. He could have went up there and said, I love Ernie. He's my little nephew. I hate to see him go to drill, No, he wanted to play hard ass. He's not a very
All right, go
good
ahead.
fake witness.
Okay, so Ernie, you testified earlier that Ernie had you arrested. I just asked
Right.
you what was that about?
All about the way he's done my mother, and he stole from me. And
I mean, you said he had you arrested.
well, he has. He had me arrested for fighting him, and he's got EPOs on me because I jumped on him because he stole my stuff, and he was mean to my mother, and I'm sure you would do the same with your mother.
Are you a convicted felon?
No, sir.
Right.
I don't think he actually testifies anymore. There's 4 minutes left though, so I'm gonna let it play through.
That's all the questions I have.
Your Honor, I would just ask for an admonition that.
Right, Serena. Yeah, this is the guy that nobody's talking about.
Just strike that question.
You said no.
Okay, I think asking was.
He was asked, was he a convicted felon?
Yeah, he
And
said no.
no. But
That's fine.
he testified
Right.
on direct that he had been arrested several times.
Yeah, but I'm not.
All right, okay. Any redirect?
Actually, no redirect after that.
All right, is this witness excused?
He's subject to recall.
All right, sir, you're subject to recall, so you may sit down, but hang around.
We would ask that he be excused for the day. Let me correct that. We might recall that.
You're excused for the day, but be back tomorrow. Okay, call your next witness.
Defense calls Pam Stidham.
Pam who?
Stidham?
Stidham?
Yes. Just for the, I'll ask her to spell that out.
Huh?
I'll ask her to spell her last name for the record.
I think I can spell it before that. All right. All right, are you Pam Stidham?
Yes.
All right, ma'am, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony given in this trial will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, have a seat over here. Speak loudly and clearly into that, I guess for the microphone, right? Yeah, on the mic in front of you so everybody can hear what you're saying. All right, Mr. Kim, go ahead.
Could you state your name for the record?
Pamela Sue Stidham,
And can you spell your last name for the clerk?
Stidham,
And Ms. Stidham, where do you live?
Keavy, Kentucky.
And did you live there in 2013?
Yes,
Are you familiar with Ernie Shell?
yes.
And how are you familiar with him?
I worked with him at Star Oil.
Were you ever in a relationship with Ernie Shell?
No, he stayed with me though. He lived with me for about 6 months.
Did you know Ernie Shell to be someone who was truthful or untruthful?
Untruthful.
And can you describe generally his state of truthfulness?
He lies about who he is. He has made threats towards me, towards my whole family.
Did he at one time keep some of his personal items at your home?
He did.
Did he keep a laptop at your home?
Yes.
Did he shoot up that laptop in your backyard?
It was not in my backyard. It was down the road.
And did you bring that laptop to the defense investigation team at some point?
Yes, I did.
Had he attempted to make fake IDs?
Not that I aware of. He made fake Facebook accounts though.
pretending to be other people. Did you at one time fear for your life because of your
Right.
information?
They would approach.
Okie dokie. Bench conference on leading the witness.
That's my understanding. This is direct examination, and she's asked a whole lot of leading questions, and we've been pretty patient about it. But
We were very patient with you,
Well,
but you
you're-
two, I will try to ask them.
Yeah, you're leading. You are leading.
That's,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Sustained.
Quit leading, woman.
And we're back. Okay. What I would like to do you remember leaving a Post-it note in your home?
Yes.
It's hard to ask that in a normal way, but do you remember what the contents of that Post-it note were?
That something happened to me, that Ernie was behind it.
Could you speak up a little? I'm having trouble hearing myself.
I said I wrote it on the Post-it note that if anything happened to me, Ernie Shell was behind it.
I'm gonna present this to you just to help you refresh your recollection, if that's okay.
About what?
About the Post-it.
She just testified what was on.
Okay. Well then, let me do that.
There's nothing to refresh.
You don't have to refresh because you remember. I guess what I would ask is if I have a photo of that Post-it, then you're probably going to object to that motion photo. Could you verify its contents and authenticate the photo?
Yes.
Your Honor, we approach.
Oh, Your Honor, may we approach? May we approach, Your Honor? We got to talk about this.
So what
So
says?
she testified to it. That's the first time they'll have heard of it because it's not.
we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. We don't know what it's about.
We had to
But
wait
it sure
until Ernie
sounds-
said they
Just a minute,
would be able to.
One, it didn't occur. Two, it's speculation.
Speculation.
Okay.
If something happens, Ernie did it, then, well, nothing ever happened. And two, how can you know beforehand who did it? It's completely ludicrous as evidence. It does not deserve the weight of evidence in a court of law.
Now, their witnesses have testified about the 9 people that Shelby Show was gonna kill, but didn't.
No,
This
I think
witness-
that's the testimony, if you'll be specific, the testimony was that your client, Shelby Shell, said he
Mhm.
killed, said he killed.
No one said he wanted to kill Mr. Johnson, Mr. Otis.
Well,
They listed people.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is,
what's
this is for
relevant to
impeachment
this?
purposes,
Where
it
we
goes
going?
towards the bias of Ernie Shell.
Ask her if she was afraid of him. That's all. But I mean, this kind of stuff
Can I
is
put
just a
this
little
in
too far. I mean,
By avowal, though.
Hmm?
I just want to put in the record by avowal if you're not gonna allow us to enter it as an exhibit.
it's Defendant's Exhibit 2 by avowal.
Can we get a statement that we're not going to refer to that then?
Yeah, you're not going to refer to this.
Not to refer to that. But the jury already heard it.
Defendant 2 by avowal. Okay.
So, I don't want to speak for you, but did you essentially say that you were afraid of Ernie Shell?
Yes.
Okay. And you left that in writing in your home in
Yes.
case somebody needed to know later. You also left a Mountain Dew can in your home?
There was one beside the bed where he had been drinking out of it,
And why'd you do that?
because it would have fingerprints on it where he would say it to prove that he was in my house at one
And
point or the other.
has he ever threatened you?
Yes.
Can you describe one of the times he's threatened you?
He put a pillow to my head and a gun.
And
Hey, Thumper.
I don't know what else to add to that. I think the Commonwealth may have cross-examination questions.
No question, Your Honor.
Okay, is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is she subject to recall? Ma'am, you're excused. You may go.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. For your next witness.
The defense calls it Amber Madden.
Amber who?
Madden.
Amber?
Amber Madden.
Amber Madden. All right.
Here comes good old Sister Amber.
Ms. Madden, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear or affirm the testimony you give me the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. Have a seat, Ms. Madden, and please speak up loudly and clearly into that microphone in front of you, so we all do. All right, Ms. Karen.
Could you state your name just for the jury?
Amber Madden.
And this is upsetting for you? Is this upsetting for you?
I'm sick.
Okay.
I can't hardly talk.
We thought you were crying when you came in. Hopefully just have a few questions. So, how are you related, or how do you know Ernie Shell?
He's my brother.
And how do you know Shelby Shell?
He's my brother.
Can you all hear?
So you've known Ernie your whole life? And what is his reputation for truthfulness in your community?
Oh, very poor. Very bad.
Feel free to give me an example.
Oh, Lord, he's went from being bounty hunters to fugitive recovery agents to investigators to all kinds of stuff. I just never did.
To your knowledge, is Ernie a man who has sex with other men?
Yes.
Have you ever witnessed one of those sex acts?
He was staying at my house for a while and he was on speakerphone in a room beside of my room talking to another guy about sexual relations for money.
Would he ever use the term, would he have asked someone, I have trouble saying this, but would he have asked someone to suck his dick?
Trigger warning.
Has he ever had that?
Your Honor, objection about leaving.
Object to what?
And the speculation.
That's not speculative, that's what she heard. That's presence and suppression.
The leading and speculation.
What was it? Well, anyway, what was first?
Said, would he ever?
Oh,
And
sustained.
Rather
Yeah,
than would he ever.
disregard the question.
Has Ernie ever had a sexual conversation in your presence?
Yes.
And what was the content of that conversation?
He needed money for his car. He couldn't pay. He just had a car. He couldn't pay the insurance. He couldn't pay his phone bill. He needed money. He was on the phone with another guy, and the guy asked him to do stuff, pretty much for money.
Has he ever had a conversation like that with Jimbo or James Collins?
objection.
Well, we're talking hearsay.
Well,
How is this not
if she was present, and heard a conversation of that nature.
on the phone?
Specifically to
Huh?
impeach prior testimony. Specifically to impeach prior testimony, because.
Well, now, wait a minute, hearsay doesn't make hearsay admissible.
It would
So you
be,
can't go into the content.
And she said it was on the, I understood it was, she said on the phone. Have you heard him talk to somebody on the
but the
phone?
truth of what he's saying, we're not saying.
If she was present when both of them were there,
Right.
she could say, she could talk about The nature, but not the content.
Okay, we'll see the nature.
I would say both of them were there.
Both the present.
Not on the phone.
Not on the phone.
Not on the
If it was
phone.
the phone.
Okay.
Because you don't know what
You
somebody's.
recognize it, what's on the phone, like, after she recognizes it.
No, Thumper. Amber's lying through her teeth. Throughout this trial, she was always calling Ernie, like when Shelby was in jail, saying that Shelby was getting out. He just signed a plea deal. He was coming to get Ernie.
That's all the
All
fact
kinds of
concept.
stuff. Amber tried to make him miserable this whole time. Whole time he was in jail.
Without going into details, have you been present when Ernie had a conversation about a sexual relationship with man?
Yes.
Without going into details, have you been present when Jimbo had a conversation about a sexual relationship with man?
Yes.
Nope.
Are you afraid of Ernie?
Ernie's skittish, like, yeah.
What was your answer, man? She asked you if you were afraid of Arnie. What was your answer?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Are you afraid of Shelby? Has Ernie ever threatened you?
What was the answer?
Can
No,
you
I
repeat?
think
No.
no. Was the answer.
Have you ever been in the presence of Ernie when he was going to a mental health appointment or psych ward?
Repeat that.
Have you ever been in the presence or around, do you have transport, did you go with Ernie when he was going to a mental health appointment or the psych ward?
Yes.
Can you tell me when that was or about when that was?
I was young. It was when he was younger. Years ago. I don't know exactly. I can't tell you an exact term, no.
That's fine. Had Ernie ever spoken about, in your presence, wanting to make a movie or write a book about the murder of Mr. King?
Yes.
Those are all the questions that I have for you. The Commonwealth may have some additional questions.
Cross.
Thank you, Art. Ms. Madden, your last name's Madden, and you said you're related to Ernie and to Shelby.
Yes.
How's that?
They're my brothers.
Their last name's Shell. So can you explain how your brother and sister?
Because we share the same mother. Possibly
How are you
father.
related to John Paul Madden? I guess who testified earlier. Is he your uncle?
He's my uncle, yes.
How, John Paul Madden?
He's my uncle.
Where do you live?
Hazard.
Hazard. When you testified that you were with Ernie when he went to psychological evaluations, how many years ago was that? You said you were kids?
Yeah, Ernie was a teenager when he went.
Well, how old were you?
Ernie's only like 4 years older than me.
So, I can't put words in your mouth. I can only ask
I don't
questions.
understand what you're getting at.
How
I
old were
have been
you?
with Ernie.
How old were you?
No, he just
I don't
asked me
know
how
how
old
old I
were you.
was. That was years ago. I can't tell you an exact time for how old I was.
Okay.
That's all you're gonna.
Okay. All right. Is that all for this witness?
Just a couple more questions,
All right.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Do you recall hearing about the murder of Mr. King?
Yeah.
When it happened? Did Ernie talk to you about any details?
Yeah, Ernie said all kinds of stuff that happened.
Actually,
welcome in and share his opinion.
Um, Did Shelby, or I'm sorry, do you recall having a conversation with Ernie about the investigation of the King murder?
What do you like? What do you mean? Ernie told me all kinds of stuff that was supposed to have happened. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, basically. Do you remember what he said?
Oh yeah, very clear.
Do you remember him talking about fingerprints in any way?
He said there was a fingerprint on a mini blind or something. And he kept saying that the mini blind was like a secret cellophane, the same material, whatnot. And said there was a fingerprint on a mini blind.
Did he make any statements about Shelby's cell phone?
He told me that Shelby's cell phone was pinged in Everett, somewhere around the gas station or something.
Did he give an alibi for himself? Did you talk about
Ernie? I don't really know. I remember.
If you don't remember, is it fair to say you don't remember or you don't know?
I don't know.
Do you remember recording a conversation with Ernie?
Yeah.
If I let you review some notes from that conversation, would you remember better?
Oh, I can probably remember very clear with I see it on, but you can bring them up here.
What'd you say, man?
I said I can probably remember very clear without seeing them, but she can bring them up here.
Well, she didn't. She said she could remember.
Yeah, so maybe we'll just stop there. Did Ernie talk about how Mr. King was killed?
Yeah.
And what did he tell you?
He tried to tell me on different occasions, but everything was the same every time he told me. Like, I would never listen to him. I'd push him off. Like, I don't want to hear it. That's my brother. I don't want to hear it. Don't want nothing to do with it. Leave me alone. Shut up. Well, it got to the point where he literally held me down in the bed, shaking me, telling me, look, this is what happened. He said that his bird was cut off, put in his mouth, duct taped, his eyes grown forks. Something about a 4-foot water hose with barbed wire wrapped around it, stuck up in
None of that's
all
true.
kinds of crap.
That's all the questions I have.
Henry Croft.
Yes, sir, thank you. Yeah, it's embarrassing to talk that stuff, but as I understand it, when Ernie's telling you these things, are those things that he thinks that Shelby did to Mr. King? And you didn't want to hear it because of your affection and love for Shelby because he's your brother.
They're both my brothers.
But
I
you-
love both my brothers the same. I mean,
Well, but
Yeah,
one of
you
them's
do.
charged with murder and the other one's not.
oh, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't
What
want
do you mean you
nothing to
didn't want
do
to
with
hear
it.
it?
I didn't want to hear any of that.
About what?
Him going into detail, literally telling me all that
When was that he went into detail and tell you this? Was this like
on several
the day after
occasions.
the murder? Let me finish my question. Is this the day after the murder, a month after, or 6 months?
No, the first time was probably a week after, and it was on the phone.
Was this after Shelby was arrested?
Yes.
So he never had any conversation with you about this murder until after Shelby was already arrested. Isn't that true?
Right.
That's all I got.
Okay. Anything else?
No, we just asked that you should get
Is it-
excused for today.
This witness be excused.
Yeah, sure.
You're free to go, man. Thank you. Okay.
May we approach your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Long bench conference, 3.5 minutes.
Okay, what's on your mind?
We would, ideally, we would have Ava speak, Ava Crow about the special education.
Yeah, could you come over here a little bit so I can hear you?
Ideally, the next witness would be Ava Crow, who's the special education expert.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But that's mitigation.
well, I think it goes to intellectual disability and his statements.
It goes to what?
His intellectual disability.
Well, we've already been through that with your other witnesses.
Right.
That we took all that by a vowel.
Right. So if the court's not going to allow her to testify in the fact phase of the trial, then we'll recall her for mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
But we still probably will need to get that by vowel because she'll be out of the state for like the 15th through the 23rd.
You want to release the jury and to go ahead and do her now?
We could do that now. The only other witness I think that we have waiting is the grandmother, and I don't think she's gonna.
Well, if we've got a fact witness, let's do them. If we've got a
We
fact
can call Edith for like a couple little things, and then maybe do the Ava stuff. I just kind of wanted to sort out how to do it. Jessica's gonna have to testify, and like 4.
We can't do any others tonight.
One's being transported tomorrow. Yeah, we can do grandma.
Grandma,
We
and
can do
then I'll do grandma, release the jury, and then do woman for the special ed.
And how many of them are?
4 is my plan.
Who would that be? Well, I don't
Well, Weedman was transported, and he's the big Sandy guy. And the other 2, Marvin LaFleur, who was the sheriff, and Cleo Powers, we had just told we thought we would get to them tomorrow. And then Jessica, who's with us now or later, she's our investigator, so she's got some stuff to talk about.
Well, if there's that,
Jessica's here.
we may be able
She
to.
is, but there's a couple things.
Okay,
We
she
can get
testified.
to her.
Let's get to her today. Let's do everything we can today with fact witnesses.
Yes.
Yes, she's been in the courtroom all the time.
Read to it earlier. So
Let's do all the fact witnesses we can get to today, and we
I
can
wanted her
discharge the
to wrap
jury.
up after all of the witnesses, but that's just how we'd like to call our witnesses in that order. I would like for her to be last.
I think that we need to call the witnesses in the order the defense prefers, Your Honor.
Yeah.
So could we go? But
Could you
having
read
said this,
And April.
sounds to me like we're going to be able to rest
10,
tomorrow
15 minutes.
for the defense, and we're going to be
I
able.
just
to get
checked.
this-
Ernie Shell is actually
So
not
let's get
in the
this
Bell
grandma
County Jail.
in my
So
suggestion, of course,
that
and then
information
let's
is
get
incorrect.
Special ed in here, and then we'll go for the 4 tomorrow. Is
All
that
right,
the way?
now,
Is that the way you want to do it?
That's what I want.
That's what we would
And,
request, because it's defense's request.
is your people, are you working on instructions?
Yeah, I think ours are probably done, but I can't tell
You got the email?
You don't plan to go over the website. Because you can take your laptop home.
Okay.
And then you would have
Yeah, I'll take, okay.
But if we get this woman in here, we can get this jury out of here by like 4:30 or 4:15.
Okay, let's do that then. The grandmother's gonna be short.
She'll be short. She's hard of hearing. She may need the headphones.
Okay. So I just looked it up. Ernie Shell is not in Bell County's jail.
All right.
So that's incorrect information. I don't know who they called, but that was not correct. You're welcome, not my monkey. You're welcome, Miss Lee. You're welcome, Leslie.
Okay, let's just hope.
That was not worth the dime, was it? Old judge and lawyer talk. Let's see what they say here.
Grandma was, I'll wait for them till
Okay.
Grandma was a very minor witness, and she's not having a good day,
Mm-hmm.
and she's gone. So we're not going to use her. We're not going to call her. She was here earlier.
Mhm.
I don't think we don't want to call her tomorrow.
Okay.
We have some stuff for mitigation that's on record already, so we don't need her to be totally here.
Hello, Bama fan.
His grandmother or his grandma? His grandma.
So we have an affidavit from her
So-
for mitigation just in case.
What I was going to say
We
is if we could go ahead and release the jury, and we'll do that now.
I thought she might be able to testify today.
I'm
She
sorry.
couldn't yet.
How long will the eval take, you think?
Well, I think it's mitigation evidence is what we're doing now,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
but it shouldn't take too long.
Yeah, it's,
Oh,
we're taking medication evidence out of it.
We recognize we're only gonna put in the avowal because our
You guys
request to
put
have
part
her
of
testify
that
in
on
that
and
case
part
has been overruled.
mitigation, because you may have to go to Colorado.
But yeah, we could probably free the jury.
But then I think tomorrow it wouldn't take, we don't have that many witnesses. There's a lot. Yeah. Well,
And then we're planning, they're planning on giving this to the jury at noon tomorrow.
Good.
So,
We're not close.
How about
Oh, they can be bringing anybody in to Bell County.
So we're gonna release the jury today and then do this about.
that's what I,
So I have,
that's what I would.
I've got to see some instructions and work on it tomorrow.
Judge, we
Cody's been working on this whole last
all day.
couple hours.
We have them on email, we just haven't looked.
Okay, and when you said you email them, who are you going to email them to?
We'll email.
Thank you, E squared.
Well,
Who do you want to stay on to?
and
We
give,
can connect your laptop
We,
to the
we,
Wi-Fi.
we were originally gonna email to Gloria.
Yeah.
To Gloria, but if you want to, but, we have them on email that we can send, but
If you want them at your house.
Sure.
who did you get? What email address did Colby give you?
Gloria's.
Glorious. Let's just keep the status quo with that
Okay.
and get them on in and yeah, I'm going to be out of it by the time we get through.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's go ahead and release the jury and then get done with this about.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we got lots of bench conferences. And they're going to dismiss the jury for the day. So
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to let you go for the evening.
you guys don't want to see the rest of
We
this
will see you in
minute
the
of him
morning.
dismissing the jury, right?
And
Let's move on to the next.
about 10 to 9, same. I still have at least
21 seconds. This is the next morning, I think.
We'll just keep that.
I will get off Amazon. Look at this.
All right, here's another Shelby Shell expert, education expert.
Mr. Sonner or Ms. Cannon, the witness we're getting ready to
You got a
Call
5-hour
Stan in a
energy
moment.
drink. You might want to drink it right
it's
now.
part by vow and part mitigation is all the same though.
It is in,
I would say the report and the review of records and that content is the same. There are some questions we would ask related to intellectual disability, special education, and fraud
Okay,
suppression
all right. Yeah.
that we would ask in the guilt phase that are different from the mitigation questions, but
Okay, we'll just kind of do what we did before. Now, let's say hypothetically, we give it, excuse me, it gets to the jury tomorrow. And Judge Costanzo needs this courtroom, I think, Friday. Of course, we could be here while the jury's deliberating.
He's super worried about being
And
out of
let's say
that
the jury
courtroom.
comes back and we do have, say Friday, hypothetically, and we do have to have penalty phase. I know of no rule or reason or rhyme or reason that we couldn't have a 1 or 2 day continuance, if necessary, to begin the penalty phase.
If there is going to be a cessation, that is the best point.
I think that would be the best point. That's the most logical point.
Yes.
Yeah, if indeed we get that far, and so that's what I'm kind of thinking. I don't want to wear out our welcome, as they say.
we're not real familiar with facilities here, and I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, I have no idea. But the hearing room next door, does it have, record capacity?
Is it the same as this? I know that Judge Costanza was doing some civil matters. What I'm asking about is, let's say the jury comes back with a question, and we, have to address that out here. Would it still be on the same record? Would we do it in there? Well, I don't know that we'll need that or not.
It's a large room, that's all I knew, it is a large, it's larger.
Is that something we could use, if we have to, we could talk to Judge Costanza about coming in here for a few minutes to see. But, yeah. I haven't even seen the room myself, but, I know Judge Costanza was doing some civil matters.
It's larger than our courtroom C. Now, it doesn't have a jury box,
Yeah.
but it is larger than our courtroom C.
Okay.
Significant.
Well, I think we could, that's encouraging. We might have a way of, just, working things as we go. But, and again, like I say, I know of no rhyme or reason why we couldn't have a brief continuance if necessary before beginning, if we get that far, the second stage. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to make room. When I say not,
At that stage, we would have no objection, but again, that still means we would have to all come back here to, this courtroom, even with the continuance, and hopefully that wouldn't conflict with Judge Costanza's.
well, that's what I was going to talk to him about, about
I
date,
just offer.
picking a date, picking it, that kind of thing. Or it may be that, well, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I'd like to work with him a little or a lot. Like I say, not way out of welcome here.
And I know we're kind of getting the cart and the horse all with jury leaving and vacation now, but we also have a guilt innocence phase for the gun charge and a guilt innocence phase for the PFO, which would come in between there somewhere. Just wanted to remind the court.
That charge was severed. I thought that was severed in the sense that it did if there were trial.
Okay.
I
Sure.
thought it was just gonna be like quadricated, but what was your impression? Are you gonna?
We're not gonna have two trials now, are we? I thought that was gonna be severed in the nature of another trial,
I think it's just separate.
the gun count.
It doesn't matter to us. We simply want to get through with this.
I think it seems like that make more sense because it gums it up with this,
Okay.
and you're gonna confuse.
Now, the penalty PFO,
That has to come last.
Here's where the issue would come.
That has to come last.
This may be what they're talking about. I
Okay.
don't mean to argue for them, but you don't want to have any issues with consecutive, concurrent, anything like that, given that you try that case at a later time. It was pending and charged while this, I don't even know if I can go through that in my mind right now.
We're gonna have to talk about a little procedure on the PFO, the consecutive concurrent business, because consecutive concurrent is meaningless on capital. You don't deal with it on capital. But at the same time, if anything, you could have the part reversed, and it seemed to me like PFO would be a tail end of just about the tail end of the proceedings.
Yes, Your Honor. And then
You'd end up with two. You could possibly we'll have two penalty phases.
You could get into prejudice with the firearm after they're made aware, and if it's before the initial penalty, I don't know. We're open to anything.
Well, I'm looking at two. I'm looking at two penalty phases. One overall without the PFO, and then one with the PFO and a jury decision on consecutive concurrent on the just on the B felonies, and so that's what I'm thinking is a possibility, but they have to be segregated.
Yeah, I just didn't want us to forget about it. I know we're going to have scheduling issues, but while we're making a schedule, I thought I should bring it up.
I was trying to forget
Muddied
about
the
it.
water,
I was trying to forget about
mixed it all up, made it a mess, but
Well,
we're
if
ready
we
to
don't
go
do
with
it
this
now, Your
program.
Honor, we're gonna have to wait until the next Harlan County jury pool
That's what I think.
to do it, because
Yeah.
we'll see.
And that may be the case. I have to do that. Okay. I think
Dismissed.
we got a load to deal with now, and to keep orderly and separate now. All right. So, are you ready?
I believe so.
Okay.
Literally within that, okay. It's like, what's really going on?
Okay. All right, man. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. What's your name, man? Ava Crow? How do you spell your last name, Miss Crow? Ava Crow. Okay. Is it Miss Doctor? Miss Crow, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give us today will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to have a seat over here in the witness stand, and if you will speak loudly and clearly, that's a little flat microphone. Right, so we can hear you. And, okay, Ms. Cam, she's sworn,
Thank you.
and what I suggest we do is like we did before, get qualifications in, what she's looked at, all that stuff, and then go through your avowal, and then we'll move on to mitigation. Now, at some point, if we get to that stage, I hope somebody's got a video editor.
Right.
So
Cut
because
this beginning
we're
chunk
gonna have to
out.
slice some stuff out, especially in the last testimony, Dr. Fabian's testimony, where we were all talking, discussing, there was cross-examination in the middle. That's gonna have to be edited out.
Your Honor, worst case scenario, we might be able to fast forward, pause, and then play.
Okay.
There's a point in there where he repeated some of the first
Mhm.
findings in the mitigation.
Yeah,
portion. So I
but you'll
think
want his qualifications and all this stuff he had at first.
That's true. Yeah, we
You
can
know,
replay
you'll
that
want the
portion.
jury to hear all that. So it's the middle stuff that's gonna have to.
And at what point, Your Honor, do you want to note our continued objection?
I thought I
To
would just start that right now.
what?
To the guilt phase, which you've already
All right.
overruled her motion, but we just.
We're gonna do, I'm sustaining your objection to the testimony about to be heard as in the guilt phase. But the guilt phase stuff is going to be heard by avowal now, and then we'll have a break point. You'll get to cross, then we'll have a break point and move like we did before for the mitigation. And then the first part will have to be edited out, except for the qualifications.
Could I suggest a break and pause after qualification?
That'd be a good idea, where we got a blank space there to go to. Yeah, good. Okay, we should have thought about that earlier, I guess. All right, Ms. Kim, you may proceed. And this is by avowal.
Yes, this portion is by that.
Mhm.
Ms. Crowe, could you state your name and any titles for the record for the jury, please?
My name is Ava Crow. I guess I go by honorable. I'm an attorney.
And could you,
Let me correct something. This part is not by avowal. We're going into her qualifications and things she's looked at. Then let's take a record break and then move, and that part will be by avowal.
Could we start all over then, Your Honor?
Yeah, let's just start all over.
re-swear her and we'll
Yeah.
start from.
Go ahead. We're trying to, electronically, we're trying to make this work so it won't be a nightmare. Okay.
Your Honor, has Ms. Crowe been sworn in?
Yeah, I just swear.
And, Ms. Crowe, could you again state your name for the record?
Ava Crow.
And you could go by honorable, Ms. Ava Crowe?
I never am sure about the title, that Esquire, something. Yes,
You have a Juris Doctor, the law degree.
correct.
do you have any other, or could you describe your educational background?
Yes, I graduated from University of Kentucky. My undergrad was from Western Kentucky University, and then University of Kentucky Law School in 1978.
And what is your professional experience?
Since 1981, it has been in special education in a variety of settings. For about 10 years, I worked for a state government agency, Protection and Advocacy, and their mandate was to protect and advocate the rights of people with disabilities. I did all of their special education litigation for the 10 years I was in that office. I was a supervising attorney for that office. I went from there to the Office of Education Accountability, which is located in the legislature. They have a different mandate. It was to investigate complaints about local school districts. I handled the special education complaints for that office for about 10 years. I then worked for the Kentucky Department of Education, was an assistant general counsel there, oversaw the special education complaint process and administrative hearing process that they were responsible for. I retired from state government at that point, began consulting, worked for about a year in the state of Ohio under a grant that was funded by the Ohio Department of Ed, and that was to evaluate education programs in the county juvenile detention facilities, prepare a report that later became the basis for some legislation in Ohio. I went from that to a contract job, working as a subject matter expert for a litigation that was pending in the Southern District of Ohio with Judge Marbley. The juvenile correctional facilities in Ohio had been sued, a settlement agreement had been reached, and for the next 5 years, I monitored the special education and regular education programs in the juvenile justice facilities. And that's the bulk of my work.
So I'm going to ask that you be allowed to give testimony about the special education services provided to Shelby Shell. Are you familiar with, or did you review records in preparation for your testimony today?
I did.
And what sorts of records did you review?
There were roughly 2,000 pages. They involved some school records from both Harlan County and Jackson County, as well as what's called an individual education plan from Christian County, where Shelby received services, I think, very briefly. I reviewed some juvenile court records from the Harlan Juvenile Court, residential, school, and living records, unit records from extended care programs he was in. Ramey Estep Home, the Barnabas Home. He was at Cumberland Hall, which was a long-term juvenile facility down in Christian County. Those records, and I guess that's the bulk of it.
And those facilities were, I want to say, Cabinet for Health and Family Services type facilities, is that?
Yes, they're long-term residential treatment facilities that the cabinet uses for children in their foster care system who need more structure than, say, a foster home provides.
And in reviewing Shelby's special education records, did you find that he qualified for special education services?
Yes, he did. There was an evaluation that was started when Shelby was in first grade. that process starts by someone seeking a referral on a student. And his first grade teacher had Shelby for about 2 weeks and started that referral process on Shelby.
And in what areas was he considered to be in need of services?
At that time, the terminology is different than the terminology you see in the psychology field or the psychiatric field. The term used at that time was educably mentally handicapped, EMH. So that is how Shelby was classified. He also was identified as needing services of a speech therapist. Speech and language skills are divided into 2 areas, expressive and receptive language. Shelby was in the 1 percentile for receptive language when he was tested for special education. And that means that he was in the lowest 1% of the population in terms of his receptive language skills. So he got services from a speech and language therapist, also services as an educably mentally handicapped student.
So part of your review included what plans were in place for Shelby to address those deficits or areas of need. Let me step back one question and just say, is educable mentally handicapped equivalent to intellectually disabled?
Yes.
Today's terminology.
Yes.
And did you review records that included IQ assessments?
I did. The special education law requires evaluations of students every 3 years. Shelby's evaluations did not happen in a timely fashion, but there were a few in the file. And yes, those for a child who is labeled educably mentally handicapped have to include an IQ score.
And do you recall approximately where his IQ score fell?
Yes, it was fairly consistently somewhere below 70. I think his first one was 64. There is a standard deviation that allows a little bit of flexibility in looking at those scores. He had one outlier, excuse me, that was above 70, but by and large they were 70 or below.
I'm going to ask about placement history separately. I want to ask you about intellectual disability and how it would affect a child's behavior in a school setting, and specifically as regards Shelby Shell. So did you observe in those reports, or is it your opinion that Shelby would have had deficits in other areas, not just academically, but socially, behaviorally in the school system?
Absolutely, that is a factor in intellectual disabilities. It's not just a measure of academic skill, it's a measure of how a student or a person functions in the world. So you also look at what they call adaptive skills that should be taught to children with who are EMH, intellectually disabled.
So some of those skills could his deficits, his I'm going to say intellectual disability because that's what I've been using.
Sure.
affect his ability to arrange events in electrical order?
Yes, folks with intellectual disabilities have, I mean, it's a given by the term, a disability that affects their intellect. That means they're slower and they think differently than folks with an average IQ. They don't grasp things as quickly. If you're talking about sequencing events and behaviors, they will have deficits in those areas. And those are areas that a student can be taught to improve in those areas. If an IEP focuses on that student's adaptive skills, focus on teaching Shelby, for example, proper in a classroom, proper hall behavior, proper bathroom behavior. Teach him with direct instruction, use role playing, use techniques that are not typically required for folks with average intelligence. So yes, he would have problems sequencing events. He would have problems foreseeing consequences. If you think about a child with Down syndrome who might have a match, toss it in the trash can, and then 10 minutes later, when the trash can flares up, not be able to connect the match behavior with the trash can behavior, that's what you would expect to see in a child with intellectual disabilities.
In addition to that, you mentioned speech issues. Now, is it your testimony that he could have received speech therapy for receptive language problems?
Could have and should have, and that therapy should have been generalized to the classroom setting so that the teachers knew how to work with that. This is an area where Shelby's program was really lacking. When you look at receptive language, what you're looking at is, among other things, a child's ability to understand questions. A person with receptive language problems will have difficulty with plurals. They'll have difficulty with tenses. Because questions get formatted differently than statements, they'll have problems with questions. What gets asked will not necessarily be what they process. You can work with that. Speech therapists know how to work with that. And what should have happened was those strategies should have been identified. It should have been generalized to his other teachers, and it should have been intensive when you're in the 1 percentile. Shelby's speech services were intermittent. I know from the records, he got no speech therapy down when he was at Cumberland Hall, which was about a year. There were big gaps in his speech therapy services when he was in the Jackson County school system. He didn't get speech therapy for the whole first semester. So, for an issue that can so affect the way a person is being perceived and the way they perceive the world, that is egregious.
I'm going to ask more about the services he received in placements further along in question.
Okay.
Thank you for getting into that a little bit. I wanted to ask about his understanding and reception of language when it came to idioms and sarcasm. Those are really two separate questions, but that's what I wanted to ask about next.
Typically, because a student with severe receptive language problems doesn't process what is being said to them. Yes, idioms could be very difficult. Sarcasm could be very, very difficult. Most people would know it was sarcastic if I said you were an idiot, but A person with receptive language issues could well think I meant it.
That's just a word that reception I needed some definition for, so
Sure.
thank you. One of the other topics related to intellectual disability is perhaps gullibility or wanting to please others. In your review of the records for Shelby, did you find any examples or history of gullibility or behavior related to his intellectual disability that led him to follow along with others?
Yes, Shelby, and it's a thread in his life, I think, certainly his school life. A lot of his behaviors were identified as seeking adult attention and seeking peer attention and friendship. So Shelby would sometimes do or say, and this is throughout his facility records, it's in his evaluations, it's on his school report cards. Could be talked into doing things, could be led into doing things, tried to do things to be accepted and be a part of the friendship of peers. For example, there was an instance where he burned his arm trying to impress peers with how tough he was. An example of jumping in the deep end of a swimming pool even though he couldn't swim. And it was to attract, the belief of the staff was it was to attract attention and friendship.
So is that typical, or is that a symptom of the intellectual disability to put oneself in harm's way to gain friends, to be socially acceptable?
If you're not taught appropriate adaptive skills to develop friends, you develop maladaptive skills if you have an intellectual disability. So yes.
And speaking of addressing those adaptive and maladaptive skills, you mentioned a year gap and a semester gap. When there are gaps in services, can there be regression in his ability?
Absolutely, absolutely. Continuity in the special education law is critical. And all the provisions in that statute talk to maintaining continuity.
I'm gonna ask about his high school diploma and what someone should understand about that diploma given his intellectual disability and his history of special education. So could you explain what how meaningful that diploma is for Shelby?
Shelby got his diploma from Ramey ESTEP, which is one of the residential facilities he was at. And he had been there a year. He went in May of '99, and he graduated in June of 2000. When he went in, he would have been 16 years old. And he went in with 4.5 school credits, high school credits. He graduated with 20.5 high school credits a year later, which means he got 16 credits in a calendar year actually in 2 semesters because they didn't have summer school. 2 semesters at Ramey ESTEP. He got 16 high school credits, which at that time was impossible to do. Credits were given in part by what they called seat time. He had to spend X amount of hours sitting in the math classroom, in addition to accomplishing other things. And it was physically impossible to get 16 credits in 1 year. I think Ramey Estep thought a diploma was valuable in the workforce and was generous with them, but it did not work to Shelby's benefit.
So his diploma is not recognition that he's achieved a cognitive or intellectual milestone. He's
Oh, no.
still intellectually disabled, even though he was given a diploma.
Absolutely.
Um, I'm gonna ask that we break for a moment.
All right, we'll stop there and discuss a few things. I see some stuff going on in the chat. We'll just talk about a few things. How about that? How about them apples? So let me get over here so I can see in the YouTube part. All right. So we were talking about some things here in the chat. I was looking back. Has nothing really to do with what's going on the witness stand right now, but talking about John Paul, who was witnessed earlier, and his possible or involvement or non-involvement. And I really I can't believe that nobody has ever brought him up, because I know he has an extensive criminal record. Extensive criminal record. And it may be simple things, simple assaults, and things where you don't get a whole lot of jail time, but he does have a lengthy criminal record. So I'm gonna look into that and find out tomorrow and try to come up with what I can find. As far as I know, he's a lifetime Harlan Countyan, so I would imagine most of his charges would be there in Harlan County. And good thing about the Harlan County Detention Center is you can go in and look, change the date to all dates and type in his name, and everything he's ever had there will show up as far as charges. So we'll get that, and we'll go over that tomorrow too. What do you guys think about the experts, the educational background experts? And then we'll talk a little bit about John Paul Madden and their testimony, and Amber. Assault, it's assault can be, a bad enough assault can lead into a murder. There's been people who have committed an assault that wound up turning into murder because the person died from it. So yeah, absolutely, that can definitely be a part of it. Stephen, you're right. Nobody seems to know. It's funny saying nobody, but nobody seems to know the area, the family well. So I was interested in some of their opinions as far as the figure, the dark figure. Definitely a thin person, is wearing a hoodie with jeans and looks like tennis shoes on. Sherry's opinion: I would love to see the whole trial. If Shelby Shell has a long criminal record, then the law let him down. They should have kept him locked up, Jimbo. Well, I mean, you can't lock somebody up forever when they serve their time. I mean, he was in jail. He'll be the first to tell you he's been in jail all but 1 year of his life since he was 11 years old. So he, once you serve out, they want you out of there. And he made references to going back home. He knew that he was going back to jail someday. But I agree that they at least should have been keeping a better eye on him. I think just because somebody gets out of prison, you don't just have them come in and pee in a cup for you once a month or twice a month or how many every time. That's not the only way they can be breaking the law. I think, would be show up and see if somebody's working. And you don't have to show up and say, hey, I'm this guy's probation officer. You can drive by work and check time cards and things like that. And but yeah, absolutely, he was failed too. They failed, not just failed him, but they failed the society by turning him loose. Um, so share his opinion, but Jimbo, I really think Ern was there. Okay, what makes you think that? Let's entertain that possibility, right? I mean, that's, a lot of people agree with you. So what makes you think that? What gives you and you're entitled to that opinion. So nobody's going to say, hey, you don't dare say that because that's your opinion. So just, what makes you think that? I would love to know. I thought he was there after I saw this trial the first time through because of what the defense said in the closing arguments about his car. Now, when I look back at that car evidence and I see the dirty tactics the defense have played, and this is second time through it for me. So actually third time but I didn't see it all when I was actually there. But yeah, he did need a caretaker, it sounds like. And he got married right off the bat when he got out of jail. I mean, he was married. He was out for 2.5 months and he was already married. The lady he married was, I don't know, quite a bit older than him. She was like 40, I think. And he was already, he was whatever he was, mid-20s, something like that. I don't know exactly how old he was. Let's see if we get a message. Did I miss? I heard Ern say they were really close. Ern was like his protector. Ernie said him and Shelby were really close. See, I've never heard him say that. Even Shelby said that Ernie told him he loved him. That was the first time he'd ever told him he loved him. And that's his older brother. So I don't know. Did Ernie say that on his live, or it's possible Ern cleaned up his mess? I don't know. I don't, I just don't see any evidence pointing in that direction. It's nobody, or Serena Smile says, and nobody, Ronnie King knew John Paul, right? He had to know of him. Ern was a lone wolf. He wasn't a drug dealer like all them. And now that, Ernie wasn't accepted by his family the way Shelby was. I don't know about the drug deals and all that because I don't know that side of the family. But I know Ernie wasn't, accepted as part of their family. I felt like they made fun of him because of all of his claims of being a bounty hunter and things like that. Is Ernie intellectually disabled? I don't know. I don't know how anybody would know that unless, he'd been evaluated and the results were made public. He's got him and Shelby both have a lot of charisma and are able to talk to people and make people believe in what they're saying. So I don't know. As far as intellectually disabled, I don't think either one of them are intellectually disabled. Gwen Jenkins, did Ernie know Mr. King? Because in trial he said he didn't know him. How is that possible? I don't know. That would be a question for somebody that would knew the family better. Because I'm not from Everett's. I didn't know Mr. King. I had never heard of him. So that would be for somebody. Maybe nobody would know that one. I really believe Ern wanted to do great things. He wasn't happy with sitting in the holler dealing. Yeah. Well, no doubt Ernie wanted to be famous. That's, he's still trying to be famous. Unfortunately, I think his fame is 15 minutes on YouTube has caused him more trouble than he bargained for, I think. Normal IQ is 80 to 120, folks. He was just 70 to 75. Come on, that's not dumb. You really think they were close in your opinion? They're all messed up in my opinion. Well, you're not going to get any argument out of me on that one. And for me, I've seen Ernie do the kind of thing that he's been doing on YouTube here over the last year or so and Facebook with his, his schemes and scams and beating people out of money, things like that. But never anything that would, that you would think, man, he's, cold-blooded killer. I don't. Is it possible that somebody would just, decide to start doing that kind of thing? Maybe. I would think there would be some kind of lead up to it, pattern, escalating pattern or something. Nobody says liar, yes, murderer, no. That's the thing. Like, people know him very well. People who are from Harlan and Everts, they knew him very well. Nobody thought Ernie was involved in that murder. Not a single solitary soul ever said anything about Ernie except for Ernie's family. And they were trying to get Shelby off. Jimbo LMAO, the lady with the magic. She could. You almost got me to say it out loud, Casey Girl 10. That was dirty. That was dirty. Blue Moon, Kentucky. After watching and listening, I'm going towards JP to be the one helping Shelby Lee out. He sure was trying to protect him while throwing Ernie under the bus. And see, that was his actions were suspect. Like, why, like he got on the witness stand and looked at the prosecutor and said, I love Shelby. Don't you love Ernie? No, not after the way he done my mother. So this is your nephew, man. You're sitting up there trying to get one of them off for a murder that he had talked about doing on tape. And the other one you're trying to throw in jail for that murder. Like, I think more people would have believed John Paul if John Paul would have said, yeah, Shelby did this and Ernie probably helped him. What about Shelby Shell's wife? Well, here's the thing. And she would have never had been asked to testify because she was Shelby's wife. And she's the one who took him up there. I'm positive of it. When Shelby was arrested and she called me, wanting money to send to Shelby to buy underwear with or whatever. Something about having to have white underwear in the jail. Maybe somebody from the jail can confirm that and tell me what in the world I'm even talking about, but sounds like something to me that could have been made up to get me to give them money. But anyway, something about you have to have white underwear in the jail. So anyway, I was talking to her on the phone and I was like, listen, I'm not giving Shelby any money. And if you took him up there, you need to let the police know what happened. And if you were involved in any way, you need to let them know so they can help you and protect you. And, she said some things, I said some things, and I was like, if you drove him up there and your phone was with you, they will be able to ping your cell phone and tell if your phone was in Everett that night. And I mean, without, a second to think, react without thinking, she said, even if we took the batteries out. Now, why would she say that? Okay, Leslie B., you have to have white undergarments, socks, underwear, etc. I did not know that. So that does make sense, I guess. So there. um, let's see here. And we have a couple more. She's the last expert witness. I think she might be the last witness. And then we get into the closing argument. So tomorrow night, we'll probably wrap this thing up. And we'll take some polls on guilty or not guilty, just for Shelby. Shelby's the one on trial. And if you think somebody else did it, then of course you're going to, not guilty. In Arizona, they dye them pink. Remember Sheriff Joe? No, I don't remember that. I'll check into that. That's cool. Tidy whites. Serene smile. All right. So tomorrow we're going to get deep into that closing arguments. That this lady still got about, I think, probably 35, 40 minutes of her testimony. Then the defense gives their closing arguments, and then the prosecution. And we will need some trigger warnings. And some of the prosecution's closing argument you can't even get to hear because, actually, you know what? I might play it and just let you hear it and not see it, because I had to cut out things due to the crime scene photos. So they show those, the prosecution does, in closing arguments again. So I may just play the audio, and that way you don't have to miss any of it, because it's pretty powerful, in my opinion. Oh, so they can watch everything together. Your friend used to be a jailer. Makes sense. Does make sense. So there. All right. So I guess we will dismiss the jurors for tonight. And because I've got to get up early in the morning too and take care of some business. I'm actually going to be picking up some more things for the next little bit of stuff coming up. And good, Sherry, good. Hey, listen, you're welcome to have your own opinion. Yeah, we heard Benny saying Ernie's been arrested again, but he's still not showing up in the Bell County. Hang on a second. I'll check it right quick for you guys. We'll see. Just a second. Current inmates. Are we still sharing screen? We're not, are we? Okay. Let's see. All right, Bell County Detention Center. As of 12:02 a.m. on Wednesday morning, I will share the screen with you. You can see what I can see. Let me pull it up. And there is no Middlesboro jail. It's Bell County Detention Center. Let's see. All right, can you guys see that? Ernie Shell, search, 0 results. So, no Ernie Shell in the Bell County Detention Center right now. I don't know who they called and who confirmed, but no Ernie Shell in the Bell County Detention Center as of midnight. So, Benny confirmed it on the phone call. All right, hang on a second. If you guys don't mind hanging out for just another second, we'll call them. See, 337-5507.
Bell County Detention Center. If you know your party's extension, you may dial it now. For control room, dial 200. For jailer Gary Ferguson, dial 201. For booking, dial 202. For pretrial, dial 203. For the kitchen, dial 204. Thank you.
Using the dial pad,
Which one should I dial?
extension you wish to call. To use the directory, press number sign. To leave a message, press star. To reach an operator, press 0.
We'll reach an operator.
1 moment, please. The operator is not available.
What?
Exiting the system. Goodbye.
How is that possible? How did anybody else get a hold of them? What number should I push, guys? 202?
Bell County Detention Center. If you know your party's extension, you may dial it now. For control room, dial 200. For jailer Gary Ferguson, dial 201. For booking, dial 202.
1 moment, please.
Gotcha. I wasn't paying attention.
Bell County Jail.
Yeah, I'm sure you've probably already been aggravated to death. Do you have an Ernest Shell there?
Let me check. I'm looking at the roster. Either he's not in the system yet, or they just booked him and he hasn't shown up yet. I'm not exactly sure how long it takes for them to show up on the roster yet.
All right. Yeah, he would have been arrested like 3 or 4 hours ago, probably in Middlesboro.
All right, give me just 1 second. Let me see if I can get somebody to help me here. I'll get right back to you.
All right.
Yeah, you know there was an Ernest Shell brought in about 3 or 4 hours ago. Ernest Shell. All right. Spell last name. S-H-E-L-L. No, we don't have it. All right, I'll let him know. Thanks. All right, guys, we don't have him.
Don't have him. All right. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
All right. Nope. Not in Bell County. Sorry, guys. There is no Middlesboro jail. Is there Middlesboro City Jail? Is that what you're saying? Call Middlesboro. He's being held there until he gets moved to Bell County Detention Center. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they just take him on to Bell County? Like, it's from Middlesboro to Pineville is 10 miles. That makes zero sense. I don't think there is a Middlesboro jail. I'm gonna check. There is no Middlesboro jail. Charles Xavier, who should I call then? You tell me who to call, Charles, and I'll call him. Middlesboro Police?
Middlesboro Police.
Is there a Middlesboro jail?
No, there's a Bell County jail.
So there is no Middlesboro holding cells for nobody?
There is a holding cell at our department.
If somebody was arrested in Middlesboro today at Long John Silver's, would they be in the Bell County Detention Center?
If they were arrested by either us, Bell County Sheriff's Department, or Kentucky State Police Post 10, that's where they'd be.
But they would not be. They would not be in the holding cell at your police station, right?
No, they would not.
All right. Could you check and see if there's an Ernest Shell in your police station being held there?
There's not. You're about the 16th person that's called asking about Ernest Shell.
16th person that's called. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye. Nope, not Middlesboro neither. Sorry, guys. Not Middlesboro, not in Bell County. He goes to court in the morning, 9:30. I'm sure we'll all be tuning in. All right. Hey, much love, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me so late. Yeah, I'm not trying to start a fight with Benny. I'm just saying, like, you guys wanted to see it all night long. So there we go. I called him for you, and it's confirmed. He's not in jail there. All right. So appreciate it. Hey, tomorrow night we're going to probably get this thing to the jury, right? So thank you guys for being in here and being so patient with us. I know we had to cut out the Ernie Shell talk so we could get through the trial. So I appreciate you guys, and we didn't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. That's just, we wanted to get through the trial without having to deal with all that. And that's why I dealt with it afterwards. Thank you guys. You guys have an awesome night. I'm Jimbo, and we're coming to you live from the stand.